In today's world, right, we are no longer in, the 1980s where you see the help wanted sign and you walk in with your resume. Everything is pretty much done online. You're putting your information into an applicant tracking system that can basically ascertain your qualifications from the resume or your typed version of a resume in that system. What you have to understand is that recruiter who's opened up this job requisition has maybe 300 applicants for that one position. And guess what? They don't have just one position that they're recruiting for. They might have 15 or 20 positions that they're recruiting for. And if there's 300 people in each one of those, guess what? They are slammed. They have hiring managers coming to them saying, where's my applicants? I need to start interviewing. And so those recruiters have a lot of pressure. And that's what you have to understand. You have to look at it from the big picture so you understand what you need to do. And that becomes really, really working on your resume and making sure that it is detailed correctly. What happens in today's world, I believe, and I'm going to pass it to Chris after this so he can give us some more insight because this is really his wheelhouse. If the applicant tracking system has the features, these recruiters are going to flip a switch that runs an algorithm cross-referencing all the information in the resumes. Then it sorts and stacks them from worst to best or best to worst, whatever. And that recruiter is not going to go through all of them. They're going to go through the top maybe 30. Okay. And they're going to find the best cream of the crop out of those 30 and start the interviews from that. So if you're number 31, guess what? You didn't get looked at. So how can we as a veteran community make sure that we circumvent some of that potential miss, right? We need to make sure we're getting into the look bucket. Now, I want to pass it to Chris to kind of get his insight because he has worked for some of the biggest companies in California and quite frankly, some of the most influential companies in the world. So Chris, please shine a little light on the importance of a resume and kind of how that whole process works.
Yeah. You know, what's funny, Jason, is I remember when LinkedIn first came out, everybody said resumes are dead. Now, look, I look at LinkedIn as just a version of your resume. So what we're talking about here is your branding and marketing material. You have a few different ways to make sure that you get seen. And more, you're not having the opportunity to actually shake a hand, look somebody in the eye. There's still some job fairs out there. There's still informational interviews that could happen if you network well. There's lots to talk about in this space, but you need to make sure that the resume, which is still the primary thing that most people look at in whatever version people looking at it, whether it's in a technology-based system, an applicant tracking system, whether it's on LinkedIn, it's the information that you're saying is what value you uniquely add to the company. Now, it's a little bit easier to make those statements if you're already in the industry, if you're already doing this job or a similar job, if you've already worked at companies that other companies have interest in pulling talent from, because those companies are recognized as having really good talent, right? But everybody's going to look at your resume, and that resume, when done properly, is the foundation for multiple versions that you're going to have SKUs that are going to be for specific job applications or specific companies that you're going after. And then you're going to have the LinkedIn SKU. And all of those need to tie in together, even though some of those are going to be different because you're going to be presenting your information based upon the things that are of interest to that particular company, which is reflected in a job description. Or if that company doesn't have a job and you happen to have a way in, you got introduced, then you're going to go look at those folks, the backgrounds of those folks, and see what they do. The whole goal is state your value, speak in their language. State your value, speak in their language. If you're not speaking in their language, it's hard for your value to get across. Now, we all know that there's a lot of hard skills and soft skills involved in getting work done. And we bring a lot of the soft skills. If you haven't coded software before, and you're not in school coding software or in a boot camp to learn how to code software, you have to be a little bit self-aware. You're not going to get seen for a job coding software if you don't have the skills and credentials. But There are skills or credentials, and more the world is evolving around the aggregation of skills and experiences as being things that we make hiring decisions on versus doing the exact same thing that, is listed in a job description. But this is an evolving practice. It is on you to make sure that you can get both the recruiter and the hiring manager engaged, at least in wanting to learn a little bit more about how somebody who is transitioning from the military has skills and experiences that transition into the civilian sector. Now, we're going to be talking a lot, and I can go on for hours here, but two key points here. You have to quickly state where you add value to the company, and you have to speak in their language. And then we'll talk more about that.